It was Mother's Day when I received a card. My daughter handed it to me and insisted, smiling vaguely, "Read it out loud, Mom." I opened the card with trembling hands, feeling touched by the little hand-drawn flowers on its pink surface. I smiled politely, cleared my throat, and began. "Roses are red, violets are blue." Then my eyes caught the next line. "You're a heavy burden. No one wants you here." My throat closed. The room went silent for 3 long, painful seconds. Then the silence was shattered by laughter. Michael, my son-in-law, erupted in cruel laughter. Danielle, my daughter, bit her lip, trying not to laugh, but failed. Even my little grandchildren, unaware of the card's meaning, laughed, because the adults were laughing. My name is Grace. I am 74 years old. And that was the most humiliating moment of my life. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, the kind that used to remind me of family breakfasts and hugs. The sun lit up the living room windows when I arrived at Danielle's home. I had worn my favorite green dress, the one that always made me feel a little elegant, despite the years. In my hands were fresh flowers, and some homemade sweets I'd baked for the grandkids. As I stepped inside, little feet ran to me. "Grandma Grace," they squealed, and those warm hugs filled my aging heart with love. For a short moment, everything felt perfect again. Michael gave me a cold nod in greeting. Danielle walked out of the kitchen, smiling in that rehearsed way I'd grown used to. "Mom, so glad you made it. We've got a special surprise for you." That's when she handed me the card and made me read it. They all watched me. I continued, unsure, heart thudding. "You're a heavy burden. No one wants you here. Your time has passed. It's time for you to go. Signed, your family who can't stand you anymore." The laughter stung more than the words on the card. Danielle chuckled. "Did you see your face, Mom? Oh, Michael, did you get a picture of that?" I looked around, unable to speak. My eyes shaded with tears. My hands trembled. The card dropped to the floor, but no one seemed to care. "It's just a joke, Mom," Danielle said with mock empathy. "Come on, don't take it so seriously." Michael followed up, "Yeah, Grace, we were honestly just playing around." Then something in him shifted. He hesitated, then added carefully, "But, you know. Lately, you've been a little too present. Other options?" I asked weakly. Danielle sat down in front of me, her tone soft but sharp. "There are some nice senior living places, good ones. People there, your age. You'd be more comfortable." The word comfortable twisted painfully in my ears, masking the real message behind it. We don't want you anymore. I felt the air knock out of my chest. I tried to understand what just happened, searching for sense in their casual cruelty. "But I thought I was here to celebrate Mother's Day with you," I whispered, almost to myself. "And you are, Mom." Michael's voice was coated in fake sweetness. "We're just being realistic. You're not young anymore. We can't take care of you, and we have our own lives, you understand." The grandkids, innocent, confused, looked around. The oldest walked close and took my hand. "Grandma, why are you crying?" he asked softly. Before I could respond, Danielle quickly pulled him back. "Come here, sweetheart. Grandma's just being sentimental." I sat there, quiet, feeling invisible, unwanted. What was supposed to be a celebration of motherhood turned into a moment of deep betrayal. After a long pause, I slowly got up. My legs were unsteady. My voice quivered. I should just go." Danielle didn't even rise from the couch. "Okay, Mom, we'll call you later." I left quietly. My smile disappeared the moment the front door shut behind me. My heart cracked open as I stepped into the sunlight, but everything around felt darker than before. That night, I sat alone in my small, quiet house. No more footsteps of children. No warm plates of dinner shared. Just silence. I cried until no tears were left. But in the sadness, something else stirred. Something strong. Something I'd forgotten I still had. It was a strange mix of pain and clarity, as if finally the fog had lifted. That cruel Mother's Day card wasn't just an insult. It was a turning point. The next morning, I sat quietly in my favorite armchair, the same one where I had nursed Danielle as a baby. 45 years ago. I closed my eyes and let the memories sweep over me like a storm. I had to understand how I ended up here, humiliated on Mother's Day, unwanted in a home I helped build. It all started when I was 29 years old. Danielle's father left us without a word. One morning, he simply disappeared. On the kitchen table lay a handwritten note that read, "I can't do this life. I'm sorry." That was it. Not even a goodbye to his 3-year-old daughter. That night, I held Danielle close as she cried, asking the same question over and over again. "Where's Daddy?" "Daddy had to go far away, my love," I whispered, as my heart broke more with every tear that fell from her little eyes. From that day on, I made a vow. She would never go without anything. No matter how hard things got, no matter how much it took, I was going to be her rock. I worked double shifts at the textile mill for 15 long years. My hands grew rough and calloused from sewing military uniforms all night. My back ached every morning, but I kept going because Danielle was my mission. When she turned 17 and excitedly told me she wanted to study nursing, I did something I never told anyone. I sold the only valuable thing I had left, my mother's gold jewelry. "Mom, are you sure?" Danielle had asked me that day, holding the coins in her hands. "Completely," I smiled. "Your education matters more than any necklace." She got into a good university. During her 5 years of study, I cleaned offices on weekends. I came home exhausted, my arms sore, but watching her sit at the dining table, buried in books, kept me going. Her dream became my happiness. The day she graduated, she hugged me tightly. "We did it, Mommy," she whispered. "None of this would have been possible without you." Those words meant everything. Later, Danielle met Michael. At first, I was happy. He seemed respectful, responsible, hardworking, and most importantly, he loved her. When they decided to get married, I didn't hesitate. I paid for half of the wedding, $12,000. Money I had saved for years. Money I had dreamed of using to someday renovate my own little kitchen. But no, I wanted my daughter to have the wedding she deserved. "Mom, this is too much," she said when I handed her the check. "Nonsense," I replied. "You only get married once. You deserve it." When they bought their first home, I gave them $25,000 for the down payment. It was every last bit of my life savings. But seeing the smiles on their faces made me feel rich anyway. Then the grandkids were born. 2 beautiful little souls who became my everything. When Danielle went back to work after her maternity leave, I offered to babysit. No charge, no complaint. For 3 years straight, I woke up at 5 a.m., walked 6 blocks to their house, and took care of the kids. I prepared breakfast, helped them get dressed, walked them to preschool, played with them in the yard, cooked lunch, gave them baths, read them bedtime stories. When Danielle returned from work every evening, she'd find the house spotless and her children happy and safe. "Mom, I don't know what we'd do without you," she would say. "You're an angel." Those words warmed my heart more than any gift ever could. But slowly, things started to change. The thank yous came less frequently. My advice and opinions, once respected, became annoying, unwanted. One day, I suggested that the younger child needed to see a doctor for his stubborn cough. Michael frowned and snapped. "Grace, we're the parents here, okay?" The words stung. I stayed quiet. Maybe I had overstepped, I thought. Soon after, more comments followed. "Mom, you don't have the same energy to run after the kids anymore." "Grace, I think you mixed up the kids' vitamins again. Maybe you're tired." Still, I continued going every day. Still, I packed homemade snacks, wiped little noses, sang lullabies. I kept giving, hoping the love would come back. Then, 2 years ago, Michael lost his job. They were scared of losing their house. So, without being asked, I offered to help. $500 every month, straight to their account. "Oh, Mom, are you sure?" Danielle had said. "Just until things get better," I replied. 6 months later, Michael found a new job, but the monthly payments never stopped. They didn't say, "You can stop now." They just kept receiving the money, like it was owed to them. Then came more contributions. When the kids needed laptops for school, $2,000. When Danielle's car broke down, $2,000. When Danielle's car broke down, $4,000. When they wanted to remodel their kitchen, $8,000. Piece by piece, bit by bit, I became their silent supporter. Never invited in, just expected to give. Until I became almost invisible. One day, I discovered that Danielle had thrown a birthday party for Michael. I found out by accident, when my grandchild mentioned it during a party. I asked. My heart sank. I called Danielle. Why didn't you invite me? Oh, Mom, it was just a quick, small gathering. Just the four of us. You'd have been bored. But the next day, I saw photos on Facebook. 20 people. Michael's family, friends, co-workers. There were decorations, cake, music, a full celebration. Everyone was there. Except me. That night, I cried quietly into my pillow. Quietly enough not to wake the neighbors. I told myself it was just a mistake. I'm sure she had a reason, but then the mistakes became the pattern. Over time, the oversights became normal. They forgot to call me on my birthday. They canceled lunch plans without telling me, and when I dropped by unannounced, they were annoyed. Oh, we didn't know you were coming, Mom. The smiles were tight. The warmth, gone. But then came the moment everything broke. 3 months ago, I was in their kitchen, helping Danielle prepare dinner. Michael stepped outside to take a phone call. I wasn't trying to listen. I was just setting the table. But the back door was slightly open, and I heard him say, "Yeah, my mother-in-law still lives on her own. She's getting a bit dependent. No, she isn't sick or anything, but you know how old people get. We're looking into options to move her to a proper place." I froze. The plate slipped from my hands and shattered onto the floor. A place. They wanted to move me away. Like I was a useless chair, taking up space. That night, I stared at my ceiling in the dark. Hours passed. All I could think was, how did we get here? Wasn't I the one who sacrificed everything for them? Wasn't I the reason they had an education, a home, happy children? And now, I was just a problem. Something to be dealt with, hidden away. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that everything they had assumed about me was a lie. I wasn't broke. I wasn't helpless. Years ago, before she passed, my mother had told me something no one else knew. That there was a family property in Nassau, Bahamas, left in my name by my grandfather. A beachfront condo, quietly managed and rented for decades by a property agency. I had never touched the income. And then there was Aunt Lucille. She died childless and left behind a healthy inheritance. Investments, government bonds, fixed deposits. While I lived modestly, collecting Social Security, my real money was quietly growing. I was sitting on a fortune of almost $400,000, and my family knew nothing about it. They thought I was just a poor old woman surviving on pension checks, helpless, dependent. How blind they were. After that cruel Mother's Day, the truth finally hit me like sharp glass. I wasn't a burden. I was the scaffold of their entire lifestyle. It was my money that had kept them afloat all these years. My love, my time, my body, my mental peace. I stay up all night, holding the ribbon-covered Mother's Day card, the one that had broken me. Every time I read, "You're a burden," I clenched it tighter. By dawn, my tears had dried. My vision was clear. No more quiet suffering. No more being used. It was time they learned the truth. I stood up, renewed, as if 40 years younger. I opened the wooden box in my closet, the one where I kept my most important documents. It was all still there, untouched. Bank statements, property deeds, investment papers. I sat down and began calculating. Every penny I had ever given them. Wedding, $12,000. House down payment, $25,000. 2 years of monthly transfers, $12,000. Kids' computers, $2,000. Danielle's car fix, $4,000. Kitchen remodel, $8,000. Other expenses, gifts and help, $4,000 plus. Total, $67,000. Gone. Given freely. Received without grace. And still, I walked instead of driving, wore decades-old Sunday dresses, skipped hair appointments to save gas, all while they remodeled their kitchen in a house I helped them buy. The realization crushed me. But underneath the heartbreak, clarity sharpened like a sword. I thought of my grandson's 8th birthday, just 6 months ago. I arrived early to help, like I always did. When I knocked, Michael opened the door. His eyes widened, not in joy, but in discomfort. Grace, the party doesn't start till 3. You're early. I smiled. Oh, I thought you might need help. We don't need help. Danielle's got it handled. He interrupted, barely letting me in. Then I saw it. Michael's mother, Brenda, was in the living room, hanging balloons, so she was welcome. But I was too early. Danielle popped out from the kitchen, wearing an apron. You can stay, Mom, but please, don't go into the kitchen, okay? You get confused with recipes. Confused. I had cooked every birthday dinner for them for 30 years. That day, I sat on their patio, alone, like a helper, waiting to be dismissed. When they gathered for the cake and family photos, I wasn't called. Later in the evening, my grandson came up to me. I was quietly picking up empty cups. Grandma, why were you sitting by yourself today? I was just a little tired, darling, I lied. He nodded, then whispered, Grandma Brenda says you're too old for big parties. His words pierced me deeper than any insult. Brenda, who was only 3 years younger than me, was telling my grandkids I was too old. Even after that, I still helped them. I still gave. Still forgave. Then came last Christmas. I spent almost $3,000 on gifts. A bike for the oldest, a tablet for the youngest, perfume for Danielle, and new power tools for Michael. I wrapped each gift with care, adding handmade tags with their names. The kids squealed with excitement when I arrived. Look what Grandma got. Okay, children, Danielle rushed in. Put Grandma's gifts under the tree. No hugs, no admiration. Just storage. The next morning, during gift opening, no labels were read. No one differentiated anything. The kids just said, thanks everyone, and moved on to the next box. The moment that shattered me completely. I gave Danielle something priceless. A pearl necklace that had crossed 3 generations. My grandmother's, my mother's, and mine. She held it for a second. It's pretty, but you know I don't really wear jewelry. She handed the box back to me. Didn't even touch the clasp. Didn't even look at the pearls. That night, I cried holding that little box. It wasn't about money. It was about memory, legacy, family, discarded like wrapping paper. 2 months later, I got the flu. A terrible strain. I had 102-degree fever, chills, fatigue. I could barely move from my bed. In that state, I called Danielle, just to ask for help. Danielle, I'm so sick. Can you bring me something to eat? She sighed. Mom, we're really busy. Michael's swamped with a project, and I'm doing back-to-back shifts. Please, I whispered. I can barely walk. Mom, you're not a child. You have to learn to take care of yourself. We can't come running every time you get a cold. A cold. I stayed in bed alone the whole week. Hungry, weak, dizzy. Do you know who helped me? Mrs. Johnson, my 82-year-old neighbor. She brought soup and sat with me while I took my meds. Even though she had arthritis and walked slower than I did. A near stranger, kinder than my own daughter. When I recovered, I went back to see my family. No one asked how I was feeling. Not one person. It was as though that week had never even happened. That night, sitting with all my bank documents spread in front of me, I saw my life like an accountant closes a book. I wasn't their beloved mother. I was a walking ATM and a free maid. Unloved, unnoticed, but no more. It was time. I made my decision. I logged onto my online banking for the first time in months. I canceled the automatic $500 monthly transfer. I closed the shared savings account Danielle used freely. I rewrote my will. Everything that was meant to go to Danielle and Michael now belonged to a charity for abandoned seniors. I created trust funds for my grandchildren, accessible only when they turn 25, and only if they stay in real contact with me. Not forced love, genuine love, not for money, not for appearances. And then I did something completely unexpected. I bought a plane ticket. Destination, Nassau, Bahamas. Tuesday morning came, and I had barely slept. But strangely, I felt completely awake. No fear, no uncertainty. Only clarity and resolve. I opened my closet and pulled out the elegant gray suit I had saved for special occasions. I had worn it only once, at Danielle's college graduation. Today, I wasn't wearing it for her. I was wearing it for me. I styled my hair into a clean bun, applied soft makeup, looked in the mirror and whispered, "You are not a burden." I looked powerful. My first stop was the bank. Mr. Henderson, my financial advisor for years, looked surprised to see me. "Mrs. Grace, good morning. What brings you in today?" "I'm here to make some changes." My voice was calm, measured, but firm. Over the next 2 hours, I completely restructured my finances. I canceled all automatic transfers to Danielle's account. I closed our shared family emergency savings. I transferred a large portion of my investments into my private checking. Then, I moved a major amount from my Bahamas rental account to a new personal account. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Grace?" Mr. Henderson asked gently. "These are very big changes. I've never been more sure in my life." My next stop was the law office of Mr. Franklin. He was in his 70s too, and had known my family for decades. He removed his reading glasses as I entered. "Grace, what a surprise. Is everything all right?" "Everything is perfectly fine," I said, smiling. "I see things more clearly than ever before. I want to change my will." He sat straighter. "Change it." I thought it was settled. Danielle and the grandkids. That was before they made it clear I was nothing to them but a walking wallet. Now I knew where my legacy belonged. I instructed Mr. Franklin to remove Danielle and Michael as main beneficiaries, transfer my estate to a reputable foundation for abandoned seniors, set up education funds for each grandchild, accessible only at age 25 and only if they maintained real, loving contact with me. "Grace," Franklin said softly, "are you absolutely certain? These are irreversible." I looked out the window for a long moment, then turned back with a firm smile. "I've had 74 years to think about it. The last 5 years taught me everything I needed to know." And with that, I signed. From there, I walked to the travel agency down the block. I'd already researched everything online the night before after I made my choice. Now I was here, ready to claim my peace. The travel agent smiled as I entered. "Where to, ma'am?" "Nassau, one-way ticket, first class." "Vacation?" she asked casually. "No," I smiled. "Liberation." The agent chuckled, not knowing how real my words were. I had the flight scheduled for Friday morning. I would spend my final days here tying every loose end and writing the letters. That evening, I sat by my window with pen and paper. Not email, not text, not even computer-typed. Real paper. Ink. From my heart. Letter number 1. To Danielle. My dearest daughter, by the time you read this, I will be on a flight to Nassau, where I will live in the beautiful beachfront condo that's been in our family, the one you never knew existed. You will notice that the $500 a month is no longer in your account. You may also try to access the family emergency savings account and find it no longer exists. But this is not revenge, and it's not meant to hurt you. It is a lesson in something I should have taught you long ago. Independence, gratitude, respect. Danielle, I gave you everything. My youth, my health, my savings, my time, my entire heart. And somewhere along the line, you started to treat me like employees treat their tools. Useful, until outdated. The Mother's Day card was the final straw. It hurt deeply. But truthfully, you stopped truly seeing me long before that. I have rewritten my will. You and Michael will receive nothing. But the children, my angels, will still inherit trust funds once they turn 25. Only if they willingly keep a bond with me, not out of guilt or benefit, but out of real love. This is not goodbye. This is me, taking back my worth. Your mother, Grace, who has finally learned to love herself. Letter number 2, to Michael. Michael, I once accepted you as the son I never had, defended you, trusted you, believed you would honor me, as family. But in the end, you joined in making me feel like a piece of broken furniture, occupying too much space. I heard your phone call 3 months ago. You described me like I was getting dependent. You said you were looking into options for a proper place. Little did you know, I already had a proper place. I just didn't realize I deserved to live there, until I stopped being seen as a burden. For years, I paid for your emergencies. I funded the life you proudly claim to have built. And yet, behind my back, you ridiculed my age, my presence, and my love. No more. You will never receive another cent from me. Stand on your own now, like I always did. Grace. I placed both letters carefully on my coffee table. Added their names. Left them somewhere they'd surely see. Then I sat back down and looked around my home. Each picture frame, each antique bowl, every hand-sewn curtain. My life was here. But my new life was just 3 days away now. For the first time in years, I slept deeply. I felt powerful, whole, weightless. The next morning, I made tea and watched the sunrise, knowing it was one of my last in this town. But instead of tears, I smiled. Finally, I was free. Friday morning. The sky was still pink when I closed the door to my house for the last time. One small suitcase in hand. Periwinkle blue. Inside, only what I really needed. I didn't need to leave a note. The letters were written. The locks would change. The chapter closed. On the way to the airport, I passed all the places I had once walked to save bus fare. The bakery, where I'd buy cupcakes for the grandkids. The clinic where I waited for hours with Danielle when she was sick as a child. The street corner where I helped Michael's car jumpstart in freezing rain. All that love. Taken. Used. Forgotten. But I no longer felt bitterness. Because now, I was done being used. At the airport, the woman at the counter smiled. First class, Mrs. Grace. You're all set. First class. I had never flown that way in my entire life. But now, I was flying as a queen, not an unwanted guest. I settled into a wide, cushiony seat. A warm towel was offered. They served me orange juice in glass, not a paper cup. And as the plane lifted off, so did 74 years of quietly carried weight. Out the window, the clouds brushed past like pages of a closing book. My hands rested calmly on my lap. No trembling now. I thought of Danielle's wedding, the joy I felt. Michael's promises, we'll always be grateful. The grandkids calling me Grandma Grace with bright little voices. So much love I gave. And so little I received back when it really mattered. They will open those letters. They'll read every word. They'll search for me. But they won't find the same Grace who once stood at their door with lunchboxes and medical bills and fresh-cut flowers. That Grace is gone. Because now, that Grace is the legal owner of a beautiful beachfront condo in Nassau, the independent planner of her own future, the writer of her own chapter, the woman who no longer gives love into a void, and finally, a woman who is free. I arrived in Nassau 3 hours later. The air smelled like warm ocean wind and coconuts. Waves greeted me softly, like I belonged. At the property office, the manager who'd handled the rentals for years handed me the keys. Welcome. He smiled. I've been waiting a long time to meet you in person, Miss Grace. So have I replied quietly. The condo sat right on the beach. 3 bedrooms, big windows, gentle colors. A balcony with a view that stretched into forever. I walked inside, dropped my suitcase, and exhaled. No footsteps of ungrateful children. No dry nods from a dismissive son-in-law. No fake laughter from those who betrayed me. Just peace. I spent that evening sipping tea facing the ocean. The sun slowly melted into the water as gulls called their soft songs above. That's when I realized something. I hadn't just changed my life. I had rewritten the very rules that defined it. Because the truth is, people treat you the way you allow them to. For decades, I accepted crumbs. Hoped that maybe love would appear at the next breakfast table. Maybe if I gave one more time, they'd notice me. Maybe if I forgave, they'd love me back. But what I gave was never the problem. What I allowed was, and now no one would disrespect me again, because I will never allow it again. Back home, I imagine the silence in their house. Danielle, holding my letter in disbelief. Michael, checking the bank and seeing $0. The joint account now locked. The inheritance, gone where it's needed. Abandoned elders, just like I almost became. They're not evil, just entitled. And I I was too generous for too long. But here's the final truth. You only reclaim your worth when you stop giving discounts to people who do not value your full price. My phone buzzed. A message. Mom, please call me. We need to talk. I smiled, turned the phone over. Silence returned. Soft, complete. I stood from my chair and walked barefoot onto the beach. The waves kissed my toes. The sun wrapped around my shoulders, and for the first time since I was a young girl, I felt whole, no longer invisible, no longer waiting to be appreciated, no longer hoping someone else would bring me flowers, because now I bring them to myself.